The Liberals could be thinking of calling an election. Why? The US actually offered Canada a trade deal, and Canada has rejected it. Meanwhile, Mark Carney is sipping some fine wine, luxurious wine, on a beach in Italy. The optics look terrible as Canadians stare down the possibility of an additional 50% tariff on a large range of new goods. I said this before many times. The Liberals are unelectable without Orange Man Bad. Why would they want a trade deal? Because they can't run on their track record, which is absolutely horrific. Canada 10 years ago on the happiness rating was ranked 6th place in the world. Today, we wake up with the reality we have dropped all the way down to 25th place. But of course, when your median income hasn't grown in over a decade, meaning you need to work twice as hard and still can't get ahead. In today's report, I'm going to be covering the US-Canada trade situation. So why would I think that the Liberals might be looking at an early election? BC has given away more land, this time in prime locations worth tens of millions of dollars, and they did this without public consultation. I got lots more for you today. Let's get into this report. Why did the Liberals win the last election? It's because we were sold that Mark Carney was the expert negotiator, the adult in the room, the banker, the mathematician. He would be able to navigate the difficult, tough waters and easily get Canada an amazing trade deal with Donald Trump. He promised the deal would come quick last July, and he would get Canada the very best deal. Since then, he's been giving unlimited concessions like the Gordie Howe Bridge, the digital service tax, removing all of the counter tariffs. You name it. Mark Carney has given it to Donald Trump. What have we received in return? More tariffs. We have more tariffs today than when Mark Carney showed up into our lives, and we are 6 days away from an additional 50% tariff on a wide range of goods. Back in October, we were offered a trade deal with the US, and Canada was about to sign it. But if you remember, that's when they had the genius idea to come up with this attack ad, which made the trade deal blow up. See, if Mark Carney signed a trade deal with tariffs, that would be seen as a complete failure. And on top of that, if he does sign a trade deal, Orange Man Bad would disappear overnight. That's a double whammy scenario that I guarantee you the Liberals are thinking about. Also, let's not forget that Mark Carney is heavily invested in the United States with 91% of all his net worth located there and only 0.5% in Canada. That means as Canada crashes and burns and the value of our dollar is plummeting, his net worth actually goes up. But what if the Liberals could blame Donald Trump for a bad deal, and they do not want a bad deal? They could continue to kick the can down the road and convince Canadians that we are not going to sign a bad deal with the US. We are number one. We are the Liberal Party. We know how to do everything correctly. Politics are nasty. They know that they need to keep this Orange Man Bad scenario going. And that's why we just found out that there is a trade deal on the table, and the Canadian side said, no, we do not like your trade deal, US. Let's take a look at some polling data now. First, don't get discouraged. Look how fast the Liberals went from non-party status to win the election. It happened in only 2 months. The same thing could happen the other direction. Politics sentiment can change overnight, like signing a bad trade deal and no more Orange Man Bad. Mark Carney's popularity peaked back in April after his Davos speech. It has trended downward ever since. but they still hold a commanding lead of 9 points over the Conservatives, with some polls coming out giving the Liberals 19-point lead. The Conservatives, if the polls are correct, would be wiped off the face of this earth. One thing that is trending in the Conservatives' favor, however, is the NDP rising, which could chip away at the Liberals' lead. If the NDP could get back to 20%, the Conservatives would have a good chance at winning. I'm here to tell you guys that maybe we should have a fall election. Let Canadians decide their future. Having these polls showing a complete annihilation of the Conservative Party might actually be a good thing, because how realistic are these polls? A friend of the channel, Vesper Digital, did a fantastic video on debunking the latest Nick Nanos poll. Vesper's pumping out some fantastic content of late. I'm encouraging him to create a YouTube channel for everybody to follow, but in the meantime, give him a follow on his Twitter X account. I'll leave a link to his page in the video description. Go ahead and follow him. But we're going to take a look at his very good investigative journalism debunking the latest Nanos poll.
So this is an open letter to Nick Nanos. Nick, I've got some questions. Not because I think polling is useless, not because I think 1,104 people can't tell us anything, and not because I think your numbers were made up. I'm asking because this poll was used to create a very strong political impression on everybody. No conservative can defeat Mark Carney. Sounds definitive. When I look at your stat sheets, that's not what the numbers actually prove. So I want to go through this with you carefully as an open question, and I'm looking at your numbers. Your question was, which of the following individuals, if they were leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, would have a chance to defeat Liberal leader Mark Carney? And the respondents could select as many names as they wanted. And that matters. You didn't ask, who would you vote for, Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre, for example. You asked people who they believed had a chance. And that is a perception question. It tells us what people think about electability, but it doesn't tell us how they'd vote. Those aren't the same things, Nick. A person could still believe that Pierre would lose and still vote Conservative. A person could believe that Stephen Harper would have a chance, but they'd still vote Liberal. This poll, for some strange reason, isn't measuring election results. It's measuring what people think might happen. Your national results say that 33.3% selected none can defeat Mark Carney. 18.3% were unsure. And because those people that you reached out to could select more than one name, those numbers don't add up to 100%. Here's the problem. 33% is not a majority. It's not even close. It means about 1/3 selected none. But it doesn't mean that Canadians collectively decided that no conservative would win. In fact, many of the people that responded selected at least one conservative, and others said they were unsure. So how do we get from 1/3 selected none to no obvious challenger could defeat Carney? I'd like that answer. So I'm from Quebec. Let's look at your Quebec numbers. You had 222 unweighed respondents from Quebec. After weighting it, it was 231. So in Quebec, your poll said 23.3% said no one can defeat Carney. 29.4% said they were unsure. So in Quebec, the largest answer wasn't no one. It was we're not sure. And that's important because the strongest Quebec conclusion isn't Quebecers think Carney is unbeatable. It says that large numbers of Quebecers are still unsure. And those, and you know this, are two different stories. And yet the public headline has flattened this into a conclusive national narrative. When you look at the prairies, Pierre got 26.2%, Harper got 25%, and the none can defeat Carney got 29.1%. That's not some overwhelming rejection of every conservative inside this form. That's a divided result. A lot of people actually saw Pierre or Harper having a chance, and a lot also selected none. That tells me there's uncertainty and fragmentation in the prairies. It doesn't say Carney is untouchable, like the headline. And again, you do something weird here. You group Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba together. Why? Those are three different provinces. How many from Alberta? How many from Saskatchewan? How many from Manitoba? Was the prairie result mostly driven by Alberta? Was Manitoba overrepresented? Was Saskatchewan underrepresented? We can't tell from this public table that you have up here, man. And that's, to me, the real weakness in this. Not because the numbers are fake, but because the regional geography that you decided to cover for all these areas is so broad, we can't tell. We can't tell where these things are coming from. That's a question I need you to answer. Your table says that all the response options were based basically randomized. Okay, good. That answers one question. The order of the names was randomized. But that's not the same as telling us where the people that were represented actually came from. You know that, right? For example, let's go back to Quebec. You said 222 people responded. Okay, Nick, where in Quebec? In Laval, downtown Montreal, Quebec City, Saguenay, the eastern townships, northern Quebec? Same goes for Ontario. Toronto, Ottawa, Oakville, southwestern Ontario, maybe small towns, suburbs? And then you said that the sample was geographically stratified. Okay, what were the strata? Was it province? Was it region? Was it urban or rural? I mean, you know the answer, but the public doesn't know that answer. And this matters because random calling doesn't automatically mean that the final sample was evenly spread out. You can randomly call numbers inside a concentrated area. I mean, the calls are still random. The geography can still be narrow. So when you say this survey represents, for example, Quebec, I want to know what that actually means. How many are from Montreal? How many are from outside Montreal? How many came from eastern Montreal? How many were urban? How many were rural? I'm not asking for addresses, Nick. I'm not really even asking for phone numbers. I'm asking you for an aggregated breakdown. Because without it, none of us can know if this was geographically concentrated on one area. So just saying the whole province kind of messes it all up. I'm in Montreal. We vote very differently from people that are out in the East. How is this going to be accounted for? How do we know that this isn't concentrated and randomized inside of an area in Quebec, say, that has a particular political leaning? All we're basically told was it wasn't. It's almost like just, trust me. This poll does not say that no conservative can beat Carney. It doesn't actually test an election at all. It doesn't tell us how respondents would vote. So Nick, here are my questions. Where inside each province did the completed respondents come from? What percentage were rural, suburban, or urban? How many from the prairies were from Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan? What did the unweighted numbers look like? How much did the unweighted numbers change the none category of people choosing? Why was a multi-select perception question presented in a way by you and CTV as some kind of election verdict? I know you've got those answers. You have the sample design, you have the raw data. So my question is easy. Show us. We can't independently evaluate your finding to see exactly how strong your conclusions are. Show us. Release all this information. Because credible polling, Nick, shouldn't be afraid of scrutiny, right? And when a poll helps create the impression or narrative that an entire political movement has basically nobody capable of defeating the prime minister, I think we all deserve more than a headline. I think we all deserve to see how you got there. Those are my questions.
Those are some pretty good questions. In my opinion, Vesper did a great job. This is from Nick Nano's poll that said, there's obviously no challengers. There's no conservative that has even a slightest itty-bitty chance at beating Mark Carney. But all I have to say, think about this, guys. These biased polls that are coming out might actually be what shoots the liberals in the foot. Imagine they call an election because, look, they're 20 points up from the conservatives, but because they're manufacturing all of the data and they're not showing all of the data sets, imagine that they're making a mistake. So go ahead, call the election. Let's test the Canadian public. I much rather let Canadians decide the future of this country than have them manufacture a majority through floor crossers. And right on cue, the #1 cheerleader for the Liberal Party and Mark Carney's best friend, Doug Ford, comes out and completely loses his mind. You got to get this orange man bad thing going in overdrive before they called this election in the fall. His entire speech was about keeping that data, your data, away from President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, we had a Canadian citizen act as a spy at NATO, not caught by Canada, caught by another country, likely working for China. But we got to worry about Donald Trump, not about the spies discovered by other countries in NATO. That doesn't matter. Donald Trump is the threat.
And ensure Canadians' data remains in Canada and out of President Trump's hands, or we can get left behind and risk Canadians' data being sent down to the U.S., where only President Trump, God knows what he will do with it. Folks, in this building here, anyone who lives in Ontario that has a driver's license, that has a health card, that's ever faced the judicial system, it's all stored right here to safeguard people's information and keep it out of the hands of President Trump.
Who's going to protect us from Doug Ford, Mark Carney, and the Liberal Party? There's a massive risk with not getting a trade deal as promised, just so that you can maintain power in Canada, because that's what the Liberals have been doing. They've been sitting on their duff for 18 months. They could have been negotiating the whole time. Now, all of a sudden, there's some back and forth talk. But here's the thing. If they don't get us a trade deal, well,
persuade business, because for business, the easiest market to deal with, whether you're talking big business or those just entering the market, including minorities, the easiest market for them to enter is the United States. You cannot change geography, nor would we want to. The biggest market in the world is still the United States. We have so much in common. This makes so much sense to have this agreement.
Now, you said it could end in tears. Could we see see it torn up?
We could, and that would be tragic. A new American administration might take a different view. We'll see.
Maybe that's a plan. The Liberals want to wait out Donald Trump and wait for a new administration. In the meantime, no deal, Donald Trump, no deal. We're going to try to drum up as much fear and support as possible, call a fall election, and get that 4-year majority mandate. I know what everybody's going to say. Why would they call a snap election in the fall if they currently have a majority government? Look at Sean Chang. He just stepped down. MPs come and go, and when they have just a razor-thin majority, that makes them feel rather uncomfortable. If they get a super majority, it's set in stone for 4 entire years. I'll be following the US-Canada trade file in subsequent reports. What do you guys think? What do you think's gonna happen? Moving along to British Columbia. You're not going to believe this. British Columbia is fully surrendering its land. BC government is now giving away some more land. We're talking about federal crown land, a provincial park, a parking lot worth $23.5 million assessed value. We're also talking about a castle. My question is, how far are the NDP going to go? Because 95% of British Columbia is on unceded territory. If people from BC don't vote for Carrie Lynn Finley, the entire province is going to be given away to the First Nations, guaranteed. As Carrie Lynn Finley posts here on our social media account, the NDP are taking the scissors to a map of British Columbia, Hentley Castle, and a chunk of crown land the size of Portugal here. Snip, snip. BC's being dismantled in real time in backroom discussions British Columbia have no say in. Did you have a say in it? In an election, did they say they're going to be giving away all of the land in British Columbia to the First Nation? Did you say yes to this? You're currently paying taxes on a property that could be sitting on First Nation land. Wouldn't that be nice? You paid taxes your entire life to find out you don't own the land. And as she posts here, there will be nothing left of BC by the time the NDP is finished. And she's absolutely right. And for all the people that say, oh, you're over exaggerating. First, it was Richmond. Then it was all of Greater Vancouver, from Surrey all the way to North Vancouver, 2 million properties. And now this. That's it for today's report. What do you think, guys? Are the Liberals trying to cook up a fall election to get a super majority so they don't have to worry every single day that they might lose their majority to a minority? They had 18 months to sign a trade deal with Donald Trump. They're just starting to talk about it, and they're already saying they don't like the deal. Mark Carney's in a jam. He said he was the only guy that could get the best deal from Donald Trump, tariff-free. And if he signs a deal with tariffs, and Orange Man Bad is gone because they signed a trade deal, the Liberal Party of Canada is unelectable based on their track record. Canadians will fully reject the Liberals. Like I showed you in this report, 2 months. They went from non-party status to winning an election in 2 months. Right now, we have the polling companies working for Mark Carney in overdrive. What do you think's gonna happen next? I'll see you on the next report.